Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Human Design Hotline. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you my first guest. She is a 6'3" reflector. Welcome to the hotline, the Human Design Hotline, Chrissy.
Oh, see, and you didn't cry. Thank you
I
so
was close, girl. I was
much. Thank you so much, Maureen. How we met was you sending me a random message on Instagram saying, hey, something along the lines of, I used to be a police officer and now I'm doing human design, and I really want to find a way to support, police officers and their families. And I remember being away for the night thinking, oh my gosh, like there was this instant connection between us. And even though I was trying to not be on social media, I was like, I'm away for the night, but yes, absolutely, let's connect. And we did. And there was just this level of energy, this connection that I don't often have with people, definitely not immediately, but it was there. And here we are. And so I'm Chrissy, and I am a coach, a connector, a change maker. I support police wives and their families. I've been a police wife for over 14 years, with my husband for 17, and no one taught me what it was like to be a police wife, what it meant, what it felt like, how to do it, and then most of all, support me through it. And so that's what I'm doing now. Is I have a program that will be launching this fall called the Police Wife Academy. It's really
Yes.
it's really exciting. It's the only one that I'm aware of that really helps police wives kind of across the spectrum. And it's not just for new police wives partners. It really is meant to kind of be from all stages and phases of life. And I love that there's a variety of women that are interested, because I think we can just all learn from each other. So there's going to be group components and individual one-on-one components, and then just I think most of what people are looking for is community. They're looking for community. They don't have it for various reasons. And I'm just really excited to be able to provide a safe and open space for people to be themselves. And that's what I feel like you do too, Maureen, is provide that like open space for people to be themselves. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Oh my
having me.
gosh. So, um, full disclosure, I am a little bit nervous. So I might be talking a little fast, but we're just going to go with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a conversation between two friends.
I know. I think because I'm a 2-4 generator. Again, Chrissy is a 6'3" reflector. There is sometimes I get so excited that it becomes overwhelming, and I'm like, oh my God, this has to be out. I have to tell everybody. That 4 line in me is very strong. It's all about networking. I'm like, oh my God, I've met this amazing person. Everybody has to know. Everybody and their mother has to know about this. And I love that you told the story of how we connected, because it was scary for me to reach out, because for people that don't know, I retired from the Chicago Police Department in 2022 after 16 years of service to move to Sedona to follow my heart. And one of the hardest things for me has been to figure out where I belong in this human design space and how to use my experience to help people. And a mutual friend of ours had, as I was talking to her, she said, "Oh my gosh, do you follow Chrissy?" And I was like, "Huh?" And I followed you. I saw your Instagram. I was like, "Oh my God, yes, I want to talk to this woman." There was just something there that I knew there was some potency there that just like drew me. And no matter how fearful I was, no matter how I was like, oh my God, do I sound so silly being like, hey, I'm this random Instagram weirdo. I want to talk to you about things. But I was like, you know, I'm going to do it. And we got to have a conversation. And I just simply adore you. And as somebody who has been a police officer, who has had friends commit suicide, I know firsthand what it is like with mental health and essential workers, with police officers, and a lot of municipalities and a lot of police all over the world don't take that into consideration.
Mhm.
And what I love about what you do is you say, I see this, and we can actually expand. It isn't just about the first responder, but it is what the first responder does affects the entire family, affects their wives, their children, every relationship. And for you to come through with a program that's for women who are, and even men who are
Mhm.
married to the
Yeah.
police, saying, I see you. I
Mhm.
know how you feel because I've been there, to me is the greatest service you can be doing in this
Mm.
moment. And as a reflector, I really believe that you are just made to be in that coaching space. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to pull up your design because anybody who's on YouTube is probably like, listen, lady, I want to see this. And I get it. Like, I was like such a nerd about it.
And
But
you're
I'm
gonna
like,
have to tell me more what a 6-3 reflector is because you were
oh, girl,
introducing me
we're
like
going to
I knew
go.
what that was and I definitely forgot. I know that I'm a reflector and I know the general kind of traits and ideas of what, and I of course know what that feels like, but the whole 6-3, I'm like, "Mm." So I'm sure those listening are be like, how can she not know what that
Right?
is? And so today I think is as much educating me as it is probably introducing people to your podcast and what part of 1% of that population looks like.
Love it. So as I'm trying to maneuver sharing my screen, I would, I had asked my Instagram followers if they had any questions for you. Do you mind answering one of them while I try to work with technology?
Yeah, of course. That's exciting. Oh, I love this Q&A thing. So yeah, please.
So I believe I was the first person to tell you that you were a reflector.
I think I've put it in before into
Mm.
some kind of website and
Oh,
reflector, but honestly, other than that, and a few like, hey, this means this and this means this, and energy stores, no lunar cycle, like that's kind of as deep as I've gone. I've never actually talked to anyone about it before. So,
um,
mhm.
so people want to know, what does it feel like to be a reflector?
I mean, that's a it's both an interesting question that I feel like I have an answer for and I don't at the same time because I was like, it's just I don't know. I guess it's who I am, and sometimes it's hard to separate the reflectorness from other elements of me,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. One, I will say when I was a reflector with not a lot of awareness, exhausting. It can be really tiring to take on the energy of other people. And
Mhm.
in my life, I think I fell really easily into the role of taking care of other people, to the expense of myself, and not knowing or thinking of myself as someone to take care of. So I think that's one. And then, where I'm still at now, especially as I'm entering into the coach world, is boundaries. How do I not take on the energy of other people and still be able to support them, and most importantly take care of myself so I can support them, right? And so that's I'm forever a work in progress, but I find that the more I take on, the more I have to also be careful about boundaries, my mental health, my energy, all of that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much. I have so many questions. I really do. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I've just put up Chrissy's gorgeous reflector chart. One of the first things that you are going to notice is that reflectors have no defined centers. So you will see nothing colored in. And that's what a reflector is. A reflector has, so every human design type has an aura. And for example, me as a generator, or if there are manifesting generators listening, our aura is open and enveloping. So we go out into the world and we just like, yes, give it to me, yes. And then we wait to respond to the external. Now, reflectors have a sampling, almost resistive aura. It's like Teflon,
Mm.
because what happens with reflectors, and this is just from my experience, and please let me know, Chrissy, if I'm speaking something that resonates to you. It's walking into a room and just feeling what is going on. You are like the ultimate, like, I want to say it's the ultimate bullshit detector, because you can go in and you just like taking little bits of everything. You can feel the overall feeling of the room, like the vibe is off, I gotta go. And then it's just taking like little samples. Oh, let me see here. Let me see this. Is this person good? Like, how do I feel? Am I resisting it? Is it something I'm kind of interested in? So, and for you, your strategy is to wait a lunar cycle, because you have no definition in your body graph. You are just, I imagine reflectors are like the ocean and the moon. You ebb and flow with the cycles of the moon. For you, it is taking, looking at what gate your moon, the moon is transiting, and seeing how that affects the rest of your body graph. Now, since I have gone ahead and talked about transits, kind of, sort of, I'm going to show you what I did is I ran your chart and I ran the transits right before we got on this call. So right here, you see, as you were born, you are a reflector. As of right now, when we take a look at your body graph, you have this definition going on. With the moon in gate 6.3, you are, over the next few hours, an emotional authority. So your emotions can very much be ebbing and flowing over the next few hours. You can experience some really high highs and very low lows. And it's all about that navigating. And then you have this really beautiful defined sacral to root with the 360 coming in. This is all about mutation and change and evolution. This is something that's been happening. This transit has actually been happening for quite some time. So it can feel uncomfortable, because the way that I see it is you are almost like a butterfly, right? You're in this chrysalis. And then as this transit gives you this 360, the sacral to root, you are changing. And it's a metamorphosis every time, like day after day. You can be somebody new every single day. And it's just like, oh, what costume do I get to put on today? Who do I get to be today? How does that feel?
I mean, what you're saying is totally correct. I'm getting to be more comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I used to feel uncomfortable and then pull away, right?
Mhm.
So kind of a retreat, kind of but now I'm starting to feel uncomfortable and still be able to push through that
Yeah.
to that change. Like the more
Mhm.
the more that I grow and more therapy I do, the more it's easy to kind of come back. And but yeah, I definitely have felt uncomfortable. It's definitely felt very up and down this week. And so what I will say is like this feels really validating,
Mhm.
right? That this makes sense. I've thought a lot about living or going by kind of the lunar cycle or my cycle before. And I found that when I did attempt to, I definitely felt a lot more aligned and in a flow. But I also found it difficult
Mm.
to to align myself to that. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's I feel better, but then I found it hard to maintain. I don't know whether it's like a diet or something, but I didn't know if you had any tips or anything like that for what, waiting that lunar cycle or being so tied to that lunar cycle and how important that is for a
Mm.
reflector.
So if we were to take from Ra Aruhu, the originator of, and I don't want to get too caught up on the word because it just, to me, that's ridiculous. You can say he channeled it, he was the originator, whatever you want. He was the one that brought human design to us, essentially. He says that it is incredibly important to feel all the feelings of all of the gates for a reflector, because you may feel
Mm,
one way one day, and then you if you if you make a decision one day and don't wait, what can happen is the next day when the transits have changed and your moon isn't in that gate that triggered something that did this and this, you may feel a sense of regret about making
mm,
that decision, which leads to your not self theme as a reflector of disappointment.
okay.
So I know that it can be daunting to track your lunar cycles and to track how you feel when the gates of the moon come in, but it's a temporary uncomfortability
Mm,
or a whole like lifetime of knowledge.
mm,
And I remember listening to a podcast, and they had the podcaster had a reflector on, and she was joking about how, yes, it was really hard to do this for like 3 months. But one of the things that she realized is that there's a particular day of the month where she cannot stand her husband. Like she has to like get away from, she takes, that is her day. And it was only then when that light bulb clicked that she oh, okay, so I see this day that, and she didn't tell us what gate, it's really none of our business. But it's like, okay, I know on this day, this gate, the moon is going to be in this gate. You know what? I love my husband. I'm just going to go ahead and bounce, because if I don't, we're going to wind up fighting and it's going to cause more pain than it's worth.
oh,
So,
wow. That's so
yeah,
interesting. I just always blame it on my hormones.
we do that too. Um, But that would be my invitation to you, would be you
Mm,
come through this story by tracking by tracking the cycles and the gates, you
okay.
can actually improve your relationship with the people that are closest to you. Like
Mm,
if you were to run your husband's chart, and we can, like there's just, oh my God, like we can go like really deep into that. We can see how that affects you. We can see how the composite chart between the energy of you two affect you, and what is that determining factor, like what agitates, like there's,
mm,
I feel like it's a rabbit hole that you can go down.
yeah.
And what I find is that when we're open to the possibilities of what could be, that all that uncomfortability kind of goes to the wayside.
Mm,
And what I actually really love about I love many things about your chart. But one of the things that I feel like I'm really good at is when people are talking to me, I can see it in your chart. And
mm,
what I love about this conversation is that today, and let me just make sure, even though I've made sure like 6 times, I'm just like, yes, Maureen, you want to make sure one more time. Um, let's go back. Hold on. Today is gate today. So today's transit, the sun right today is actually transiting gate 53.5. And you have gate 53. And this is the pressure to start something new. And the only way that you can start something new is by finishing a cycle. So we take a look. What I love to do is I love to take a look at where this is in your chart. Where does she have gate 53? Gate 53 is in your unconscious sun. It's 53.3. So for me, what that tells me is that you are there's not only pressure for you to do new things, to create new things, but it's also what drives you. And with it being in line 3, the trauma response, that trauma archetype of that is the anarchist. It's shit, this isn't working right now, right immediately. I'm burning it all down. It's not working right. I'm burning it down. That's
Yep.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I felt like that all week. I was like, hey, I don't know what to say to, what to say to launch my beta program. So I'm just not gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna do it. And all week I've pushed through that, and then it feels so good, but I still
Mhm.
have those feelings of like, yeah, burn it all down.
Yeah.
Um, mhm, mhm,
Yeah. And the 3 line is incredibly powerful. It is in human design, the material plane is the 3rd line. So it's all about mastering that the material plane. And sometimes I feel with the 3rd line, and you're a 6-3, so actually we can actually we'll talk about the 6 and the 3 and all the deliciousness of it.
hmm,
It's this, I have to break everything down in order to rebuild. There is the deep pressure. It's trial and error consistently. What works, what doesn't. Oh my God, if it's not going to work, fuck it, I'm going to burn it down. Right. As a reflector, I believe that one of the things that you may be here to learn is to learn that patience. It's not burning everything down right away when it doesn't work, right? You have all of your centers are undefined. You have an undefined sacral center. If you don't have that energy, there's no need to push and to force, right?
mm,
It's letting yourself, okay, I don't have the energy today. Maybe I'll have it tomorrow. But what I would invite you to do is on those days when you feel like you don't have that energy, go and take a look at the transits, see where the moon is, see if it's making any pings to your chart, see what it's doing. Just reflect. Okay, well, the moon right now is in, gate 6 for you, which then gives you the channel of mating, which
hmm,
I know people laugh and they're like, oh my God, channel of mating. It's not necessarily mating all the time. It's the creation of something new.
mm,
Has over the past few hours, because I think it's in 6.3 right now, have you felt this deep desire to create something new? You're an emotional authority right now. How does it feel in your body to think about creating something new and using the knowledge that you have and the depth of the wisdom to create something new and to bring it out into the world and say, here is what I have for you. And this right here can change your life.
whew, that feels like a big question, and even my dog is making noise over it, although I think it's
I love it.
because she wants to be on the couch. Okay, hey, get up here. Get up. Come on. Whew. Creating something new. And you said just in the last few hours?
Yeah, this is like the flavor of the energy for this gate 6 transiting the moon for you right now. And it will change in a few
Yeah,
hours. So,
I mean, I think today it's being more comfortable showing up.
mhm,
And I mean, specifically on the surface level, I think it's on Instagram and my stories. I've had a really difficult time like just showing my face and talking. I
yeah,
can put a picture up there, I can put words up there. I can do the crying to the camera, but there's something about putting my face up to there that has been very just vulnerable, I think. And so showing up in that way, and then also just really going deep within myself and kind of uncovering, yet another layer of myself.
mhm,
um and just that, the emotions that that brings up, the showing up for all the different, have my hands over my stomach right now, but like all the different parts of
yeah,
me, and allowing all of that to kind of surface, I think is probably what I relate to in the last few hours, which feels, I mean, that's huge, right? I didn't even think about that and really until this moment when you said this, what's been happening the last few hours that may be kind of life changing. And those are two really big things for me, um, that I have done. And I mean, it's not even, it's just 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
yeah.
So, um, yeah.
So I have a question.
Okay.
When when did you realize in your own journey that you wanted to help other police wives? Was there a catalyst? Was there an experience where it dropped in and you're like, you know what? This is what I need to do right now. This is what I'm being called to do.
Yeah, there was actually. I mean, I've wanted to be a coach for a long time, but in terms of exactly who and when, and kind of deciding, okay, this is it. I'm doing it now.
Mhm,
I shared it earlier this week, but really there was a morning, 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's the only time my husband and I really have to talk.
mhm,
It's a great time to talk, right? When you're exhausted first thing in the morning. But we were having an argument over something or other. I think it's about, him being home, or when he's home, he's not even home. And, he's like, well, I have to go down and get ready. And I followed him down the stairs because I was like, this isn't done. And so, followed him down the stairs, and he was getting ready in the bathroom, and I was standing right outside of it. And I was like, how am I supposed to have a full-time job and think about launching this coaching business and everything else that, falls on me at home? And then when you're here, you're not even here.
yeah.
And he said, because of what's happening at work right now, right? The increase in the violence, and the police, people not liking the police, and the drugs and the calls that I'm working on, it's a lot more intense. And so that means that I'm putting my effort and energy there, and I don't have as much time at home. And it was just this sudden realization and understanding that we both had, and we both cried. And then I was like, surely this has to be happening in more relationships than just ours. Us, surely this has to be happening in more relationships than ours. And I asked some other police wives, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is me. This is this is our relationship. This is what's happening. And I think there's so many of these little nuances that create such a big impact, I mean, on any relationship. And so that's when I realized, okay, I think, we need to do something about this. And I say we because while it's me, it's it's opening up our whole family, right? It's being public and saying, hey, I'm a police wife, we're a police family, and there is a degree of feeling uncomfortable, right, and vulnerable about opening that up, especially in Canada. There's not a lot of people that are open about that,
Yeah.
um, and and so that was it. And since then, I haven't really looked back, and there hasn't been any. I'm happy to say there hasn't been any backlash or anything. It's only opened more doors and more relationships like the one we have,
Mhm.
and many others. So yeah, there was that time, and it's one of those moments that I look back on, and I'll never forget where we were standing, what that felt like, right? That energy in the room, like you said. And that's what I stay grounded in on the days that feel hard, like as an entrepreneur or coach. It's like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for the right reasons? And I always go back to that moment. And as long as I still feel it as strongly as I do, then yeah. And I think it's the feelings. I feel so strongly. And I don't know if that's part of a reflector, but I feel everything. And for a long time, I thought it was a drawback. I tried to push that part of
Mhm.
me down because it was so exhausting, right? And now I realize it's my superpower. I just have to support it in the right way.
Oh my gosh. How has this realization and this opening up to your emotions, how has that affected your relationship with your husband?
Gosh, it it feels like I'm really coming into myself for the first time. Um, that this is the core of who I am. And so it's created an entire shift in our relationship. It has me asking questions that I maybe wouldn't have asked before, or
Mhm.
being vulnerable, or showing that I'm upset, or asking for what I need. And really embracing the emotions in that way. It's brought us a lot closer together. And then what's interesting is then it's almost given him permission to do the same. And so there's like him asking for what he needs, and I find our relationship is it's always going to be challenging in some ways, but it's easier. There's an ease and a flow and a balance
Mhm.
before, when both of us were holding back our emotions for whatever reason, being able to release them and feel like it's in a safe space. We've been together 17 years and I've never felt this close to him.
I have to tell you that I can hear and feel just the bravery in that story.
Mhm.
As somebody who was the police, to
Mhm.
hear your relationship with your husband and you having the ability to make him feel safe enough to express. I don't know many police officers that have that are so open, that have that love and support at home to be willing to let out those those emotions. I know with my experience as a police officer, I shoved my emotions down, all the way down, put a whole bunch of alcohol right on top of that, because we don't talk about feelings. We just repress them. And to hear the way that you move and do this dance with your husband, and you have allowed him to be vulnerable and in your own vulnerability, just I I am floored
Mm. Well,
by
thank
this.
you.
It is something that I have never heard of. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to hear about your program for police wives, because I agree. I think that there are a lot of significant others out there who really love their police officer,
Mm,
but they don't know how to reach them.
mhm,
I had friends trying to like reach me for the longest time, but I had shoved so much down because I did not think that I didn't want to feel, because once I started feeling, it was going to be a huge tidal wave. Like, I saw my first dead body on the third day of me
that
being out on the street,
really, really heavy. One of the
right?
heaviest things.
Nobody prepares us as police
No.
to deal with that. They just, you're going to go out there, you're going to see a bunch of shit. You might get into a shooting, do this, don't worry about it. Just go home and do this. And like, it's never really there's no, there's little to no concern for officers and their families' mental well-being.
Mhm.
And I think the work that you are doing right now with police wives, the Police Wives Club, right? All of a sudden, all of a sudden,
Peace Wives Academy, yeah.
thank
And
you.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
one of the things I say the most is that it starts and ends at home. And we've
Yes.
learned this, we've learned this the hard way. And, people may say, oh my goodness, the relationship isn't so incredible. You didn't see the fact that we almost broke last year. You may not have seen all the arguments and all the work we've had to do to get here, to get to that point, right? It is a lot. It's so much work. It's talking almost every day in some capacity. And but it's so worth it to have those vulnerable conversations. And I think in policing, there are so many roadblocks to having them. It's
Mhm.
not just the shoving down of the officer's feelings, but it's the lack of quality time. It's the being exhausted because your officer is at work and then you're at home. And if you work and then you have kids and things just get layered on top, like what does that look like? And so that's also what I coach, right? Is like how do you have this relationship even though you can't change those other things, right? You can't change your officer, but there are certain things that we've done over time to shift things. It takes time, but I've learned that some of the things that we've done or been through, people are like, I've never heard of that before and I didn't think about doing that. And I just want to be able to share that with others. Like I just want to be able to help and save police marriages, right? We saved our own. And um I I truly believe that this is what I was put on this earth to do. And my reflectorness is that superpower, right? Like I was asked to define what my superpower was in the corporate world. And I worked really long and hard. I don't even know if we've talked about it, but I had to say and get really confident over and over and over again. What is my superpower? And it actually got me my latest corporate job in December. And it was, I form connections so quickly that it establishes trust. And it's probably not the best. I probably messed that up, but like I'm able to go into a place that I don't even know and quickly create connections and trust. And that's what I do. It's who I am more so than what I
Mhm.
do. And it's in every single position I've had, they've been so different. That's what's made me successful. And that's what's made me feel the most like me.
I thank you. That was just like, I think I feel a little bit speechless. So I'm feeling cognition. That's my feelings are apparently my superpower. And as I embrace them, I really allow myself to feel the words that people speak. And that just like it sung to my heart. Like I don't know, and I'm not even gonna say I don't know, but I hope that the people listening can hear and feel the sincerity in how you speak and feel the passion
Yeah.
of that. And of course, I'd love to show you in your chart.
please. I want to see it in my chart.
Oh my gosh, there's so many beautiful things. So the first thing that I want to talk about is you being a 6'3". So in human design, there are 12 different profiles. And we talk about profiles like they're costumes that we
Mm,
wear. So it starts with a 1-3. So the way I like to explain it is with the profiles is imagine the 1-3 is like the baby, right? You put a baby on its back and it's like, oh, my toes, oh, this, let me put that. Like it's all about like just learning about that environment, wanting to know that information. We go all the way to the end and it's 6'3" is the final profile.
mm.
And the way I envision the profile, the 6'3" profile is, have you ever seen the meme with Ben Affleck outside, like having a cigarette and just like looking like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's circulated recently, right? Is that has it? I don't know.
I-
Anyways, yes.
So to me, the 6'3" is like, oh my God, I have been through all of this. I've been through some shit. I've seen some things.
Mhm.
It's time that I help other people. The sixth line is known as the role model. And
Mm.
the sixth line goes through 3 phases of their life. So the first phase is from 0 to 30 years old. I lovingly refer to this as the shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I might extend that to 38, sure.
Yeah. So this is where a 6 line lives like a 3 line. And for you being a 6'3", that is a lot of trial and error, a
Mhm.
lot of bonds made and broken, a
Mhm.
lot of wondering, what can I do with life? What should I try this? What about this? Let me see. With you, especially with your taste cognition, cognition is our superpower. It's, I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to take a little, how does this feel? As a reflector with an aura that's sampling, right? Let me see this. It's very much those first 30 years are dipping your toe in to
Mhm.
see where you belong.
Yeah.
And that is the base of who you be. And then once you get out of that first phase, you have the second phase, and that's known as being on the roof. And I invite you to imagine it just like you sitting on a roof, right? You're now like, listen, I got out of that. I'm just going to kind of look and assess the situation. Let me see where I can maybe drop a little nugget of wisdom in here or there,
Mm.
right? And this part of your life that you're currently in is, for me, the way that I envision it is the taking of the old and the surprise. I want to say like the surprise of what could be, and blending it all together with this reflector wisdom that you have gathered with all of this wisdom of that 3 line life, and kind of putting it in and seeing what happens.
Oof.
Just like, it's almost like, let's fuck around and find out.
It's I am more comfortable with experimenting, with trying
Mhm.
things. I call myself like a recovering box checker and
Mhm.
perfectionist and things like that. And so shedding some of that, right? And being more comfortable trying things and have them not work out, or having them work out, or it's a lot, it's also a lot of trying to figure out at the core who I am,
Yeah.
right? And what that looks like and what that feels like. And when you said I've been through shit, um, I definitely have. I mean, people may look at me and be like, yes, you've been a police wife for 14 years and you've been through a lot in your relationship. I've also been through, man, a heck of a lot before that. I've had a decent amount of childhood trauma to overcome,
Mhm.
some CPSD, PTSD, depression, anxiety, recently, more recently, bipolar 2 and some hypomania. And so when you talk about mental health and first responders, I think oftentimes you don't think about the mental health of the spouse. There's a lot of effort, there's a lot of focus put on the mental health of first responders, rightly so, absolutely. But it I think one of the things that I bring is that empathy and the compassion for the person experiencing the mental health issue. And so while, I may not be speaking to the first responder themselves, I think that compassion and that empathy and that real experience of having been through that pain is really going to help me be able to support the spouse, to be able to, support themselves, but then also have that inner knowing, that inner wisdom of, I will never see and experience what you and other first responders have, but that feeling of trauma, I do know well. And
Mhm.
so combining that with being a police wife with all of our, experiences and, personal growth and professional growth, all of that, I'm really excited to be able to share that, I think is what, some people call it wisdom or teaching. I know, I just call it sharing
Mhm.
because that's what I want to do. I just want to share and hopefully have it help someone.
Oh, I firmly believe with my full body that you absolutely, without even realizing it, have helped so many more people
Mhm.
than you could even imagine. I I getting to know you and your reflectorness, just I there's just so much wisdom in that life of feeling everything, being that almost like an observer, but also deeply feeling at the same time.
Yeah.
When I talk about reflectors and I go through the types, I tell people to imagine it like a movie,
Mhm.
right? Reflectors are like the movie critics. You have this ability to be out, but also be very much in and reflect back to the people in your environment what you see in a way that may trigger some people because some people don't want to be held accountable for how they are.
Mhm.
But I think it's a disservice that people do when people do that to themselves because reflectors, I feel, come from this place of deep knowing, this place of um, kind of being outside of it and being objective, but also being very tender,
Mm.
right? You yourself, you personally have this, I find, have this tenderness about you and this feeling of safety.
Mm.
I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for hours. And
Same.
it would it just it I'm like at a loss. There's so many words that want to come out and I like, oh, how do I don't feel like anybody who works with you is going to regret it. I think that
Mm.
there is a level of depth and a level of knowing that you as a reflector have that no other type can touch. I know that there are a lot of, when we look at big coaches in the industry, there are a lot of manifesting generators. There's a lot of generators. There's a lot of projectors, and they have a way of doing things. But a reflector as a coach, like who doesn't want somebody who is outside and inside reflecting back to them? If you are serious about like a self-love or a self-appreciation or even making yourself having a better life, if you're serious about that, get you a reflector. get you a reflector coach.
Well, thank you, because I know that when I was first starting in the coaching world, I got really discouraged because there were so many of those, six and seven figure coaches that were manifesting generators that were, hustling or getting up at 5 in the morning. And I'm just like, I can't do that. Like, it's not only that I don't want to, like, when I do that, it takes me away from myself. I get further away from, my authenticity. And I find that when I let go of that, which was easier said than done, right? I'm more authentic. And that means just when I have the energy to do the work, I do it. And it
Mhm.
comes in bursts.
Yeah.
I'm not the person that can work for, 5 to 7 in the morning and then start my day job. I'll often have bursts of energy, and it's
Mhm.
not always at the same time every day, which is also frustrating. And it's not even every day.
Mhm.
And I've come to appreciate those bursts. I'll be just sitting in bed, reading my son a book, and I'm like, oh, I got to write this down, because I don't know if it's my brain or what you're showing me here, but it just doesn't work in the same way. And when I try to apply how others do what they do, it doesn't work for me. It's almost like I need my own little roadmap for how to be, an entrepreneur as a reflector. Although I think what else you're going to say is it's just, it comes naturally
Yeah.
too, if you let it. But I found that to be the biggest struggle, is kind of fighting against my own, reflectorness, right? And that's um when I've struggled the most.
Yeah. Oh, would you like to see that in your chart, my dear?
Yeah. It's
I want to find a much more clever way to say, do you want to see it?
you.
So, as a reflector, you are a non-sacral being. So, for reflectors, manifestors, and projectors are non-sacral. What that means is that you do not have consistent access to life force energy that is in the sacral. So, I love that you recognize that, oh my God, all these manifesting generators are doing all this shit. I don't have that energy. And you're not designed to. Not having that consistent access to that sacral, especially when you're alone, because more often than not, if you're with somebody, you'll have a defined sacral. Um, it's really just honoring that ebb and flow of energy. If you try to push through that, I don't have enough energy, but I have to, that is going to burn you out. That is going to lead you to trying to be somebody that you're not. With all of these open centers, the one thing that you have that not a lot of people have is a completely open center. So there is a difference between undefined and open. With an undefined center, you have a gate that's basically a filter, right? When you have an open center, you have nothing. Your energy is just out there and energy just kind of moves through. You have a completely open ajna. What that tells me is that when you are in the not self or the shadow of that completely open ajna, it can show up as a mental pressure to have all of the answers. I need to be certain. I have to know everything. I'm going to do every single thing that I need to do in order to be certain before I express. And that can sometimes be a hindrance because it not to say that it's all in your head, but it's that not self mind that almost tricks you into believing that you need to be certain before you move forward. Your undefined head center, you have gate 61 hanging. We call it a hanging gate.
Okay.
This is the gate of inner truth. You are always looking for inspiration and filtering it through the truth. Is this true for me? How, it's almost like it's like a detective too. Like, I need to find the truth in this. And sometimes what can happen is, as you're trying to figure out the truth of it, this completely open ajna says, well, are you sure? You have to be certain that you have to be 100% before you express, because if you're not 100% certain, who's going to believe you?
Yeah.
How does that
I'm like,
resonate?
I'm just like, doesn't everyone feel this way? But then, I mean, when you were talking, and I try not to think about my responsibility, like my husband, so many times, especially in my business, because I found that going from corporate to an entrepreneur is not easy.
Nope.
It's one of the hardest things I've done, other than, becoming a mom and police wife and other mental health and things like that. It's the hardest thing. And he goes, you're in your head. You need to get out of your head. Like, how many times has he said that? I don't know. And the more I try, the less answers I have.
Mhm.
And my therapists have said this to me too. You're intellectualizing this. I'm a researcher as well. I'm like, let me Google. I will find you the best vacation spot. I find out so much. People are like, how do you find this? I'm like, how do you not? And then again, I just take it in. I'm very analytical, but at
Mhm.
the same time, I'm also very emotional. But I find that when I haven't been able to rely on my emotions, or they don't feel safe or comfortable, I'll go up to my head, and
Yeah.
then I get stuck there.
Yeah. Because it's safe there. It's safe in the chaos.
Yeah. I
And
remember I remember oh gosh, what did my therapist say to me once? Um what would it feel like to not kind of be, well, it's a little bit different. What would it feel like to basically not be scared all the time? And I was like, I don't know, that sounds really scary. That sounds really scary to not be scared all the time, right? And so there's a comfort, I think, like you said, in that chaos. And I
Mhm.
think the more that I lean into my emotions and the uncomfortable feeling, and just somehow saying it's okay that I'm uncomfortable, I know that I'm safe, I know that I'm okay,
Yeah.
then what comes out of me and what comes out into the world is, I don't know, it's just me. And up here, the thing I've relied on so much, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel as much like me.
Yeah. And there is a rock quote that I'm going to completely butcher, but he basically says that what we've relied on our whole life is actually not who we are, because we've relied so much on other people telling us who we need to be and how we need to be, that it becomes part of who and how we think.
Mm,
And if I feel like this goes back into childhood trauma, into that shadow
mm,
work. Who did your parents tell you you had to be in order to receive love, safety, and boundaries?
yep.
Like, for you, for example, if we were in a session, I would literally ask you, which one of your parents withheld love, safety, or boundaries until you were certain you knew the answer? Did they reward you for being correct? Did they reward you for being more mental and less emotional?
Mm-hmm.
These are the things when we look, and I just looking at the body graph and seeing these open centers for you as a reflector, there's so much possibility for that conditioning, that I really love that you have become, through your trial and error process as a 6'3", you have learned to see that and to, oh, I want to say like, not so much associate that about that anymore. It's more, you've literally you're stepping into who you were really designed to be,
Mhm.
which when we take a look at it through the lens of human design, I would immediately, I look at your innocence motivation. And this is something that you and I share. And it was one of
Mm.
the most difficult things for me to learn, because innocence motivation is known as a sixth line motivation. And what that says, we are designed to be motivated by what serves us for our greatest good. What
Mm.
happens a lot with people with innocence motivation is they live their life through their transferred motivation, which is desire. We as a society, and by the way, it's a third line motivation, third line material plane. Desire motivation is desired transferred motivation is, oh, I see what they have and I want that. I see this and I want that. I want to be who that person is because I want what they have. And when I talk about it, I talk about my own journey through spending over $50,000 in coaching. Because what I did is I was searching for something that could help me be more of who I was. And I was going online and I was seeing all of these coaches, saying, I make $10,000 a day from my bathtub. I'll teach
Yeah,
you
I
how to
know.
do it.
I'm just like,
I'm like, that sounds delightful. Hook a sister up. And I would just, eh,
I went
that
through that
is
too.
desire transfer motivation. What I have realized is what serves me the best is when I enter into things and I'm selfish. And I know people think that selfish is a bad word, but I don't think it
No.
is.
Mm-mm.
When I put my needs before what other people have, I'm doing, it's like giving myself a big bear hug. It's like, yes, finally. And I see that in your story. I see that as you're talking about looking online and seeing all these other coaches and really questioning yourself. I
Mhm.
see that. And then you having this moment of, wait a minute, no, I'm going to do it my way. I can do this. And that I see in your son. Son in gate 8 is all about doing things your own way. You have a style that nobody else has. As a 6 line, you're a role model.
Hmm.
You see things the way you see what other people want. You know that you can give it to them and you do it in your own way. And as long as you stay true to that, you can master the material plane.
Mm.
And part of that is going to be provoking people. It's going to be pushing people out of their comfort zone. And provoking isn't, I'm not meaning to say provoking like it's a negative thing, but it's asking people to invest in themselves because you see the potential of who they can be. You know it. As a 6 line, you are a visionary. You know what you see it before anybody else does. As somebody with Shore's environment, you know how people can go from one phase of their life to the next. Shore's environment is not only your physical environment, but we can also talk about what does that bring in to you as a
Mm.
coach. This that this shows people truly on an energetic level. I see you. I can also see where you can be, and I can get you there because I've done it for myself. You
Yep.
are heavily individual in your energetics. 30% of the lines in your chart are a 6 line. You are meant to be this coach. You have one
Mm.
you. You see what people need because you've been there. A majority, all your energetics are 42% individual circuitry. You are designed to empower other people through your experiences. I
Mm.
it's when I feel like I can talk about this for a million years because I see all these little threads in your human design that tell me if I'm looking for a coach and I want to go from point A to point B, you are the person that will take me there.
Oh, wow. That's quite the compliment. Is there something in the reflector that says I'm bad at taking compliments? Because I usually be like, but you didn't see where it came from. Um, but it's interesting you say about provoking, because I've been told I rock the boat sometimes a little bit too much, especially at corporate. And then what I find is then it has to, I let it just kind of wait. I pull back just enough to let it sit. And then they kind of come back and be like, yeah, okay, I think you're right. And then what happens is those relationships become even closer, right? There's a connection there because there's been, I don't want to say a healthy conflict, but because I've questioned things maybe that someone else hasn't, or asked them something that someone else has been afraid to. And then they're like, oh, okay, I think I can let my guard down now because we'll have this thing where I say, I'm not sure, if I want to be treated, I'm not going to be treated like that. Or obviously with a coaching client, it would be different. But, and then what happens is I get it. I understand why you would act like that. Like it makes sense to me that based on what you've experienced that you would yell at your kids for that. Like I understand. And then I find that just like, and then that like crusty exterior or the whatever armor they've had to put on, it just seems to kind of melt away. And I
Mhm.
think, perhaps that's, one of the strategies I've used with my husband, not as, intentionally as I have in some ways, as I have at work for different reasons, right? Not necessarily a strategic reason, but then also with police wives and people that I talk to, it's like, okay, you really get me, or you really see me, or that, I I've been there kind of feeling. Um, and I guess I've seen that as my superpower, and I don't know if I've always seen that as something that's rare. So
I love every single thing that you say. And I'm like, I am trying, again, I think that we have so many connections in our chart that I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for another million years. But I do want to be respectful of your
hey,
time
absolutely.
before we go, because my 4 line is strong. Where can I already know that people love you. I already know people love you and they're like, holy shit, Maureen, where can I get more Chrissy? So I want you loud and proud to promote the shit out of yourself
Oh
right
gosh,
now, girl. Right
thank
now.
you. I
Tell
mean,
us
I've
all the things. I want
let Yeah, so you can find me at police.wifelife on Instagram. So police.wifelife. I have a website, policewifelife.ca. So you can find me there. Instagram is the best way to connect with me for sure. I like to post funny things, serious things, real things. And most of all, I just want to help. I just want to help. I don't hold back in terms of like, wait for my program and then you'll find out.
Mhm.
So if you have a question, if you I'll answer anything you have as honest and as real as I can. I'm currently running kind of a bit of a test for my beta program just to get some feedback, see how it lands and feels and looks. And so if there's anyone that's still interested in joining, there's still time. Even once this comes out, there's still time to join that. And then this fall, in about mid-September, I'm going to be launching the Police Wife Academy full program for the first time. And so this is going to take people through a variety of different areas of kind of police life, from communication to really focusing on your relationship, finances. I know that's been a huge part of my husband and I's relationship, and I know is a huge part of any relationship. And then and also transitions. There's so many transitions in police life that we probably don't talk about as much. Definitely starting out and retiring, but there's so many within there, having kids, changing units, so many things that happen over the course of a police kind of life together. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the two of you, hopefully, right? It's going to be the two of you, and policing's not going to be there anymore. And so we get ourselves so wrapped up in that identity, that schedule, and all of those things. But, you know, that's not who you are. It's just what you do. It's just what it's just, yeah, it's just what your officer does. And who you are behind that is so much more and deserves so much more. And so that's what I want to help you do, because I know I've lost myself in it, and I've then lost myself along the way. So that's what I'm here for, is to help people find themselves again, especially if you've been a mom and then in police life. It's even easier to lose yourself as a spouse. So I'm here to help find your way back to you, find your way back to your relationship. And I just can't wait to really start doing that on a bigger scale in Police Wife Academy. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. I went this whole podcast interview without crying, and now I want to bawl my eyes out. Oh
Well,
my
I think you helped bring this out of me, with this like
God.
feeling of allowing me to
Oh,
just be me, and like really to put that feeling and that passion behind it is so easy when I'm talking to you.
oh
So
my gosh.
um
I'll ask you right now, but
yep.
would you like to come back on and talk more?
Oh, of course, I'd love to come back on. I want to educate myself more on human design, because I'm sure at the beginning of this, people were like, she
Right?
knows nothing. Why are you bringing her on a podcast and you're saying all
Hmm.
these things and she doesn't, I
Yeah.
would love to start maybe when I've lived in that, two or three of those lunar cycles for a while, and started, looking at that emotions, because I love to learn about myself. That is probably my number one thing I will say that supports me, my growth, my health, all of that.
Mhm.
And this is something that's been, when you have something like just like percolating, I don't know, like back
Mhm.
here or something for a really long time, it's one of those things. So I'd love to come back on
Oh my,
another
I,
time.
I am overjoyed, and just thank you, thank you so much for this glorious opportunity to be able to share who you are with the rest of the world, because I'm telling you, you're gonna change. So you've already changed. You are, I can feel it in my heart how many lives you are here to change. And if I can help you in any way, I am so down for that. So
And I feel the same way about you. I think knowing more of your story than what you've shared here, the fact that you've ended a policing career and you've started this, and you're like, but I want to help police families and spouses after everything you've been through. That's what I've been telling people as I'm like, hey, I met this person and this is what she does, and she's gone from here to there, and like she still wants to help police, officers and their families. And I think that's just a testament to who you are, right? That, this wasn't the right, space for you to be in, but you see the need, you see, and you still have that connection. I think it still feels like you have that connection for those that are still kind of in that we're still in it, right? And we need, I think, more help than ever. And the fact that you're doing this for mm, people in the policing community, but even beyond, I can see that this is what you were meant to do. And that, I mean, you've changed my life in the short period of
Oh my
time
God.
you've been in it. So I know that without a doubt you're changing them too, and just giving more platforms for that to happen. So thank you. You're just such a special human.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I will receive that.
Oh, you're so
I am
thank you.
also not good at taking compliments, but we're learning. I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm
Mm.
learning. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, all of Chrissy's information is going to be down in the show notes. If you want to reach out to her and connect with her, oh my God, please do. She is absolutely an amazing human being. I'm going to put my information down in the show notes as well. I thank you so much for the opportunity, Chrissy, to speak with you. And to my listeners and my viewers, thank you for the opportunity to be part of your day. And I hope that the rest of your day is absolutely spectacular. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.